Hello everyone, my name is Jane and welcome to my fall book recommendations. I'm so excited for this video. I've been planning what I'm going to recommend for so long and I have so many different books today. I have a lot of horror books and thrillers, books that are perfect for the spooky season. But except it, I also have a lot of books that I think they are perfect to read in fall. Also if they are not horror or thrillers, I just have a lot here and I will be separating this video in genres. I feel like it's more organized like this, and there is going to be timestamps for all of the genres, and also please check trigger warnings for all of those books. For most of them there is a lot of trigger warnings, so be aware of it. And yes, I'm just really excited, so let's get started. Now the first genre that I'm going to recommend is YA horror. I really love this genre. I feel like it's different from adult horror. It tries to be less scary. I feel like the biggest thing in YA horror is the atmosphere, which I really love to read. And the first book that I'm going to recommend is a book that I've been waiting to recommend for so long. I read it in the beginning of 2021 and it's definitely one of my most favorite books of the year. And maybe you can guess it, but I'm talking about Horrid by Katrina Lenor. Honestly, I'm talking about this book non-stop. I just love it so much. I was so surprised from it. And basically in this story we are following a teenager and her dad passed away not a long time ago, and basically she and her mother are moving back to the town where her mother was living when she was a child, and they are moving to her old house, and this house is a really big creepy mansion. So this is basically a haunted house story, but honestly it just so much more. I just feel like the most amazing thing in this book was the writing. It was so atmospheric. It was just those kind of books that you just feel everything around you, like you are in the story. Just so atmospheric. The main thing is that the plot is a little bit predictable, but I still think that the whole vibe of the book is just so good, and maybe you have some parts of the plot that are predictable, but the rest of the story is just really unexpected. Only when you start reading the book, in the first line, you're already saying to yourself, what I'm reading right now? It was just really amazing. Honestly, I can't recommend it enough. Like, again, one of my most favorite books that I read this year. Definitely my most favorite horror that I read so far. I just love this book so much. It's perfect for the spooky season, and also the cover is really gorgeous, which is always a bonus. Now the second YA horror is a new release, and this is actually the only book in this whole recommendation video that I have mixed feelings about. And the reason that I'm still going to recommend it is because honestly I can't stop thinking about this book. And this book is House of Hollow by Crystal Shatterland. I see people giving this book 5 stars all the time, and I do think that this book is really good. My personal problem was that it felt really slow to me, to the point that you already guess everything because it was so slow. But the atmosphere of this book was just wow. I think that the whole world and the plot that the author created is so amazing. This is definitely one of the most atmospheric books that I ever read. And yes, basically we are following a story of 3 sisters, and those sisters just disappeared for a month when they were younger, and when they arrived back from this disappearing, no one remembered what happened and where they went. But since then, strange things started to happen to them. Basically their hair became white and their eyes was in a different color, something like this. And in the current time of the story we are following the younger sister, and the older sister disappears again. So the main character and the middle sister are trying to find their sister back. And yes, I do think that the plot is really good, the atmospheric, the characters. Again, the only thing for me was that for me it felt really slow, but I do think that the plot is really good. And again, it's so atmospheric. Like, I can't describe how much atmospheric this book is. And yes, it was really fun to read it. And it's also not only a new release, it's a debut. And I think that this is an amazing debut, so definitely give this book a check. And now I have some manga and graphic novel recommendations. And the first one is a manga horror from Junji Ito. And Junji Ito is a really famous manga author. And I actually want to recommend a book for me that I never saw anyone recommend. And this is Venus in the Blind Spot. Now I read a few Junji Ito books before, and I feel like the most popular ones are Uzumaki, Gyu, Tommy, those books. And honestly, Venus in the Blind Spot is really genius. Basically, this is a short story collection of horror stories. Most of Junji Ito books are short story collections, and there is some really mind-blowing stories in this book. And also the hardcover of this book is really cool. Like, except this eye, you have the same design also in the inside of the dust jacket, but also the book itself, just really pretty on the inside. And you have a lot of paintings here. I'm not going to show everything so you can see it yourself, but yes, it's also the most beautiful Junji Ito book that that I have. And also, I think that those short stories are the most mind-blowing out of all the Junji Ito that I read. I just really loved it. Again, I didn't hear anyone talk about this specific book, so I definitely recommend it if you love Junji Ito. And now I have a horror graphic novel, and this is Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. And this graphic novel is so cool. This is another short story collection. There is 5 short stories here, and I feel like atmosphere-wise, this graphic novel is just perfect. You have a lot of really spooky illustrations, like it's also beautiful. The art style here is amazing. Like you feel that this is the thing that I enjoyed the most in this book. And yes, I just really love graphic novels, and if you love graphic novels, I definitely think that you should check this one this fall. It's just perfect for spooky season, and graphic novels are really short and fun to read. And this is short story collection, so if you want like one of the short stories, you have a lot more to experience. And yes, I really enjoy this graphic novel. And the next 2 graphic novels are actually not horror. They are contemporary cute graphic novels. Really not scary, but both of them are in fall, and you have a lot of fall illustrations and fall themed, which I think it's perfect to read in the fall. And don't worry, we're getting to more spooky books after those 2 graphic novels. And the first one is Pumpkin Heads by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Herring Hicks. And like you can understand, there is a lot of fall vibes in this graphic novel. And basically we're following 2 teenagers that are working in some kind of Halloween festival every year. And this is their last year together because they're going to college next year. It's just their story in the last night in this Halloween festival. The illustrations here are really gorgeous. I just really enjoy the style. You have also a map in the beginning, which is also beautiful. And yes, honestly, I love the illustration style here, and it will definitely put you in fall vibes. And the next graphic novel is one of my most favorite graphic novels ever, and this is Mooncakes by Wendy Xu and Susan Walker. And this graphic novel is just so cute. And basically this is a contemporary fantasy, and we are following a witch and a werewolf and their story. Now the werewolf, I can't remember the name, but they are coming back into town, and those 2 were childhood friends until the werewolf moved from this town, and this is just their story together. There is a really good plot here. Again, it's fantasy, it's just really fun, and the illustration style is just really amazing. Definitely one of the most beautiful styles that I ever saw, and there is a lot of fall vibes here. And again, the plot is also really good. I feel like a lot of graphic novels feel too short with not a lot of plot, but I feel like this one was really satisfying. And yes, one of my most favorite graphic novels, and it means a lot. So yes, I just really love this graphic novel, and it's definitely perfect to read in the fall. And now we're getting to the thrillers. I feel like also thrillers are perfect to read in spooky season because they're so thrilling, and I just got into thrillers this year, and I have some thrillers that I really enjoyed. And the first one is No Exit by Taylor Adams, which was for me my first 5-star of the year. This book is just so good. And basically in this book we are following a woman that gets stuck in a storm in some kind of resting place, and I think that it's in the mountains, but basically it's winter, there is a lot of snow, and she's stuck in the middle of nowhere with more people that she doesn't know. And then she's finding out that there is a girl stuck in a trunk, and basically she realized that there is some kind of kidnapper out of all the people there. And this book is the most intense book that I ever read. Honestly, this book is just so intense. If you read thrillers for the really thrilling emotion that you just have to keep reading, this book is perfect for it. I started reading it before I went to sleep, and of course I didn't sleep that night because I just couldn't put the book down. Again, it's really intense. I feel like this is the best way to describe it. It just kept building up more and more. The plot is so good. I also think that the characters are really good. Like, this is such a fast-paced story, and I feel like in those kind of stories you usually don't really get to know the characters, but I feel like in this one also the characters were really amazing. And yes, I personally think that the ending was perfect. I love this book so much. Again, my first 5-star of the year, and yes, honestly I will always recommend it. And now the second thriller is a thriller that I recommended a few times before, and this is Verity by Colleen Hoover. Basically Colleen Hoover is a romance author, and this is her first romance thriller, but this is so good. Except that I personally really love Colleen Hoover. She's one of my most favorite authors. I really think that the plot here was really amazing. Now yes, it's a romance thriller. There is a lot of romance, but I feel like the plot and the thriller is the biggest part of the story. And basically the main character of the story is an author, and she's basically getting a deal to continue writing a really famous book series because the original author got into an accident and she can't keep writing this story. And basically the main character who agrees to this deal is going to this author house, basically research in her library and find all the information she needs to continue writing the books. And of course there is a romance between the husband of the previous author and the main character. And yes, just this book is so good. I don't want to say too much, don't want to do any spoilers, just really amazing. I read it in 2020 and it was my most favorite book that I read that year. And yes, it's also really hyped up for a reason, definitely worth all the hype, and you definitely need to check it. And the next thriller is a thriller that I read last month and I loved so much, and this is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Fair. This book is just so good and so spooky. And basically in this book we are following a woman that is applying to a nanny job, and basically this job is to nanny 3 children in a really big house. This house is pretty much in middle of nowhere. The family is really rich, so they have a lot of money, and the house itself is really spooky, but not because it's old, because it's really modern. And I don't want to say too much, but I personally listened to it in an audiobook, and the audiobook was so amazing. The narrator did an amazing job to really make you feel the spooky around the story. But I think that this is a really good thriller. I really love the plot. I feel like the whole plot just went perfect, and everything just made me want to keep reading more and more and more. It was just such a good thriller. I loved it so much, and again, I personally think that the audiobook is really amazing, but also in a text, I'm sure that the story is still amazing. Definitely one of the best thrillers that I read this year. And the last thriller is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. If you haven't heard about this book, where have you been? But basically this is a first book in a 3-book long series. The last book was just unreleased, and I personally read only the first one, and I'm really hoping to get to the rest of the series this fall. This is a YA murder mystery, and we are following a teenager that is basically investigating a cold case of murder that happened 5 years ago where she lives. And this book is just so good, so many plot twists, and it's so unexpected, like really amazing. It's really hyped up, again, for a reason. I do think it's really worth giving it a check. And yes, I love the characters, I love the plot. I couldn't put this book down, and hopefully I will also get to the rest of the series this fall. And now I have one dark fantasy book that I really want to recommend. You probably can guess this book because I just read it last month and I can't stop talking about it. But honestly, it's my most favorite book that I read this year. It was just so amazing. And this is The Wicked Deep by Cha Ernstner. And oh my god, this book was just so amazing. And basically dark fantasy, if you don't know, some sort of fantasy that is more dark, you can call it a horror fantasy. For me, it's like the perfect combination of YA horror and fantasy. Just so atmospheric, and I personally think that this book is perfect to read in the fall. Now basically we are following a cursed town where 300 years ago 3 girls were killed by the town people because they suspected the sisters to be witches, and since then there is a curse, and every year those sisters are coming back into town, kill boys. And actually the story itself takes place in summer, but this is a very gloomy summer of a lot of really gloomy atmosphere. And also this book is really around water, and I feel like it's really perfect for the transition between summer, the hot season, to fall and winter, the cold season. I just feel like there is a lot of summer elements, but in a really gloomy way, so it's just a really good transition. This book is just so atmospheric. I cried so much from this book, like I honestly couldn't put it down. My most favorite book that I read this year. Cha Ernstner is definitely an author for me from now. The writing was just really amazing, and this is also a debut, like the most amazing debut that I ever read. And yes, like this is an all-time favorite. I won't stop recommending this book ever, and I just really think that it's perfect for the transition between summer and fall winter. Now I have a few books that aren't horror or thrillers, but I still think that they are really perfect to read in the fall because of the vibe of the story. And the first one is historical fiction, and this is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And you probably heard about this book or about any other book by Taylor Jenkins Reid, but this book is definitely those kind of hyped up books that are so worth the hype. It was just so amazing. And basically this story is following the life of Evelyn Hugo, and Evelyn Hugo was a big star. In this current time of the story, she is already old, and the main character of the story is a reporter that goes to her house to basically learn her life story and write about it. So we are going back always to the past to hear all of her life story, and I feel like this book is really good to read in the fall. And I'm not sure how to explain it, but just something about the vibe here just feels really suitable for fall. It's a really sad story, but it's just really amazing. One of the best books that I read this year. I really loved it. It doesn't take take place in the fall, but I just feel like it's perfect for the fall because all the vibes of this book. And yes, if you didn't read it so far, just read it. It's so good. And the next book is another historical fiction, and this is actually a really hyped up book that I don't think that I ever talked about on my channel, and this is The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue by V. Schwab. I read it in the beginning of 2021 and I just never talked about it, but I do think that the story is really good. And we are basically following the life of Eddie LaRue, and Eddie LaRue made a deal with the devil and now she can live forever, but no one will ever remember her once she is living. And there is a lot of past and current time of the story, because in the current time she's meeting a man that is the only one since forever that remembers her. Now honestly, this is one of the most beautiful books that I ever read. The writing here was just so amazing. Now the book is really slow. This is something that a lot of people say, and also for me it was pretty slow. This is the only thing that was pretty hard for me to get through, but honestly I wouldn't miss anything, because in the end this is the life story of a character, and I feel like only in this way you actually learn every little detail about her life. This is just such a beautiful book. I keep thinking about it until today, and although it was really slow, I'm thinking about maybe reading it one day. It was just so perfect. And also the reason that I feel like it's perfect for fall, again, it's because the vibes of the book. The book takes place in a lot of seasons, in a lot of years. Eddie LaRue lives for so long, but still something in the vibe, in the gloominess, in the sadness of the story just feel fall to me. And yes, it's pretty intimidating. It's a big book and it's really slow, but for me, a plot-driven reader that is usually looking only for really fast-paced books, this book was just really good. I loved it so much, and yes, it was just so beautiful. And the next book is the only romance in this list, and this is a YA contemporary romance, but this romance takes place in fall, so there is a lot of fall vibes, obviously. And this is November 9 by Colleen Hoover. Another Colleen Hoover book. Of course, I just love her books so much. But basically in this story we're following two teenagers that met in November 9, and their plans the next few years are different from each other. They are going to live in different cities, but they are making this kind of arrangement that every year on November 9 they are going to meet up. For all the story we are following every November 9 every year. Only November 9. We are not in any day except November 9, which is a really cool concept. I just feel like this is not a concept that I usually hear about, and I really loved how the story took this concept and how everything went. Just a really fun romance story. It will make you cry, like honestly every Colleen Hoover book, but it was just really good, and it takes place in fall, so it's perfect to read in fall. And yes, there was so many recommendations, and again I worked on this for so long, but I'm so excited that I finally showed you all of my most favorite books that I feel that are really perfect for fall. I really hope that you find this video helpful and that you will enjoy those books. This is a part of my fall special on my channel, and there is a lot of more fall themed videos that are going to arrive, and I'm really excited about them. And I just wanted to say that this video, I'm not going to upload the video on Sunday, and instead of it I have a really exciting announcement on Friday, so be sure to hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss it out. And yes, thank you so much for watching this video. Until my next one, you can check more videos by me, and I will see you in my next announcement video. Bye everyone!